Hi, this is Steven Schneitman with Do Good Media, and this is a quick video to show how I like to organize my files in Illustrator. This is one of those things that a new designer doesn't always think about. Okay, here in this document I have 3 artboards. Okay, so it's 3 different versions of this logo, and as you can see over here in my layers, artboards I have 3, layers I have 1. Okay. And one of the beautiful things, if you don't know this about Illustrator, is the fact that you can iterate so quickly. You can add this and you can start changing versions of this all within the same artboard, within the same document, instead of something like Photoshop where you're limited with one canvas, right? Okay, so anyway, I love designing in Illustrator. But one of the things so this is something I sent off to a buddy of mine to design, and he did, looks great, but he sent it back as one layer. Everything is in one single layer. So I want to show you how I like to design. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my selection tool here, and I'm just going to select everything inside this artboard. And if you notice this right here is blue, I've created a new layer. I just did that. Okay, I'm going to grab this and just drag it up. Now you notice the bounding box is now red. It shows that only that disappears when I turn this layer off, right? So what I've done is I've taken just this logo and I've put it in its own layer. I'm going to create another layer. So now that's layer 3. I'm going to select this. I'm going to drag, see how it's a little blue icon, and all that's doing is it's showing everything that's selected. It's all these layers, right, are inside this bounding box. If I could do this individually, one layer at a time, and this is how I used to do it, and then I realized, oh, this is a much easier way to do it. Boom, right? So now you see when I click on this, I'm selecting all those layers. When I click here, I'm selecting all those layers. See that? And then here, I'm selecting all those layers, right? So I can turn them on or off based on the layers. Now obviously I can change the layer order, whatever. So if you wanted it to be on top, right, black is on top, let's put it right up here. And I'm going to rename this layer. Okay, so this layer is now going to be called one color black. Okay, and then here I'm going to call this one color red. And then I'm going to call this one color dark red. Okay. Now there's one more thing I like to do when I'm organizing my file like this. You may or may not know this, but when you go to your artboard selection tool here, right here when you click on this, you have artboard 1. The name of your artboard is just artboard 1. That's not helpful. And the reason why you want to take this extra step and go ahead and name the artboards is because when you export for screens, let me just show you exactly what I'm talking about. When I go to export for screens, okay, it's going to bring up this box which shows my artboards, but you notice they're artboard 1, artboard 2, artboard 3. If I go to export them, they're going to be named artboard 1, artboard 2 in my files, and that's not going to help me with anything. If I send this to a client, I want them to know exactly what they're looking at by the file name. So you can change the name here. I can call this one color black, but then when I cancel out, so I've done that, right? But when I cancel out of this, it hasn't changed the name here. Oh, I take that back. It has. So you totally can do this either way. I take that back. But let me show you how you do it while you're in here before you go to export. Okay? You can click on your artboard and you can click on name right here and just change the name. Again, I'm going to call this one color red. And then here I'm going to call this one color dark red. It's kind of a brownish, but whatever. Okay, so now my layers are named appropriately. So if I were to send this to a sign printer, if I was going to send this to some other, or if the client, better yet, if the client is going to take this file and then share it with a printer or some other of his vendors, right? When they open this up, it's very clear what it is. Now all I've done is the very basic. I've just taken everything, I've popped it into the same layer. But within these layers, you have some elements that I would name these. Again, I didn't design this, I had a buddy design it. But you know, like right here you got the R and L, right? I would go ahead and name that group RL. That way when you're looking at it, if you ever wanted to say you wanted to, here's an example, okay? Maybe we want to take this idea, right? I'm going to duplicate the artboard. I'm going to come in here and make another layer because I want to keep all this stuff straight, right? I'm going to select all this. I'm going to drag this up here, and now I'm going to call this RL isolation. And I'm just calling it that right now. I mean, it may or may not make sense to call it that long term, but let's see here. I'm going to find that RL, which I've already named. See how quickly I was able to find that, right? I can name that, or I can turn that off, right? And then I could take this, which is everything else. I could group it, Command G to group that. And now all that comes apart, right? Now I can turn this back on, I can turn this off, and now it's just the RL. So imagine you wanted to put this, who knows where he might want to use this. Maybe it's on the sleeve of a t-shirt or something, you know, maybe he doesn't want to have the entire circle. He wants to use just the element, right? I'm just saying there's ways you can, and also you notice it's clean, it doesn't have like the texture on it. So you could do a much cleaner version for, say, vinyl on his door, because you know the vinyl cutter is going to say, no, I'm not cutting all that little stuff out. He may just want a clean, you know, as we zoom in on this, you can see the difference of that. That's clean, and that's got the texture over it, right? So that's just an example. Like I like to name it so that it makes sense when I'm looking at it, right? So circle. And then inside that, if you wanted to, you could even say, okay, I want the outside circle, right? That's just this outside circle. And you'll also notice this is still a stroke. I would go ahead and convert these strokes to shapes. But anyway, my point is, it's important that you structure your files in a way that it's meaningful to someone else, because you know, as designers, I get it. You're in it. You're feverishly going. I know I do this, but usually before I send this to anyone, or before I give it to a client, or before I send it to a partner who's going to be using it to do something, maybe an animated intro or whatever, I want to label it and name it so that it's easy to identify what you want. There have been times when I've found AI files or Photoshop files that have hundreds and hundreds of layers, and the time it takes to go through and find that, it's just painstaking, it's awful, and don't be that guy. All right, so yeah, that's just how I like to organize my files. So if you're a vendor and you're working with me, you should know that this is how I like it. If you're an intern who's going to be working with us, you should realize that I care how files are organized. If you're a vendor that's going to be doing some subcontract work with us, use this as just a way to know that I expect work to be clean and organized. All right, thanks so much. Have a great day.